We use AI and complex financial models to solve all sorts of problems. Why not this one? Imagine an app that could predict a girl's cycle, sending gentle, private reminders. Imagine using financial technology to create subscription services for affordable, high-quality sanitary pads, delivered discreetly to homes, so no girl ever had to worry about cost or access. The morning of February 23, 2026, felt strange. Anne woke up with a dull ache deep in her belly, like she had swallowed a heavy stone. She was 12, and life was a whirlwind of secondary school, new friends, and even newer feelings she couldn't quite name. The school bell rang with its usual sharp clang, but today it sounded different, like a warning. In her crisp white gown uniform, she sat in her classroom, trying to focus on the teacher's words about history. The ache wasn't going away. It was a persistent, nagging throb that pulled her attention away from the chalk-dusted blackboard and into the confusing landscape of her own body. She shifted in her hard wooden chair, trying to find a comfortable position. It was no use. The pain seemed to radiate, a slow, warm wave that made her feel queasy. She glanced around the room. Her classmates seemed so normal, so absorbed in the lesson. Was she the only one feeling this strange internal storm? She pressed a hand against her lower stomach, hoping to soothe the discomfort. The air in the classroom felt thick and heavy, and Anne felt a growing sense of unease, a premonition that something significant was about to happen. She just wished she knew what it was. The world outside the classroom window was bright and sunny, a stark contrast to the gloom settling over her. Anne tried to distract herself by doodling in her notebook, but her hand felt shaky. The ache in her abdomen was getting stronger, sharper now. It was a cramp, a tight knot that made her want to curl into a ball right there on the classroom floor. She felt a sudden, peculiar warmth spread between her legs, a sensation she had never experienced before. A flicker of panic ignited within her. Something was definitely wrong. She desperately wished she was at home, safe in her bed. Her teacher, Mrs. Davis, called her name. "Anne, are you paying attention?" Anne jumped, startled, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. All eyes were on her. She mumbled a quick apology, her heart pounding in her chest like a trapped bird. The rest of the lesson passed in a blur of anxiety. The ache in her belly was now a constant, powerful presence, a rhythm of pain that consumed her thoughts. All she could think about was the final bell, the signal that she could escape this strange and unsettling morning and run all the way home. When the bell for break time finally shrieked, Anne shot up from her seat. The movement sent a fresh wave of pain through her, so intense it made her gasp. She needed to get to the restroom. As she stood, a girl behind her, Sarah, pointed and whispered. Then another girl giggled. A cold dread washed over Anne. She slowly turned her head, her eyes tracing a path down to her chair. There, on the light-colored wood, was a small, dark red smudge. Her blood ran cold. She quickly looked down at the back of her pristine white uniform. The horror was immediate and overwhelming. A large, dark crimson stain had blossomed on the back of her white gown, a stark, impossible-to-miss mark of shame. It felt like a spotlight had been switched on, pointing directly at her, exposing a secret she didn't even know she had. Her mind went completely blank for a moment, unable to process what she was seeing. The pain in her stomach was suddenly forgotten, replaced by a searing, all-consuming embarrassment. This couldn't be happening. Not here, not now, not in front of everyone. "Look! Anne had an accident!" a boy shouted from across the room. Laughter erupted, sharp and cruel. The sound pierced through Anne's shock, each giggle a tiny dagger stabbing at her confidence. Her classmates, kids she had shared secrets and lunches with, were now pointing and mocking her. She felt her face burn with a heat that had nothing to do with the weather. She wanted to disappear, to become invisible, to simply melt into the floor and vanish from their sight. She quickly grabbed her school bag, holding it tightly behind her back to cover the stain. Her legs felt like lead as she tried to walk towards the door. The whispers followed her, a venomous trail of gossip. "What is that? It's so gross! Did she wet herself?" The words swirled around her, making her feel dizzy and sick. She felt utterly alone, isolated in a sea of pointing fingers and scornful looks. This was her first period, a moment that should have been private, a transition into womanhood. Instead, it had become a public spectacle, a source of deep humiliation and pain that she felt would be etched into her memory forever. The journey home was the longest walk of Anne's life. The school gates felt like the entrance to a gauntlet. Every student she passed seemed to stare, their eyes drawn to the bag she clutched desperately against her back. Shame she was trying so hard to hide. The sun, which had seemed so cheerful from the classroom window, now felt harsh and unforgiving, highlighting her white uniform and, she imagined, the terrible stain she was hiding. The world felt hostile, every glance a judgment. She walked with her head down, her hair falling over her face like a curtain. She wished she could pull the world around her like a blanket and disappear underneath. The usual cheerful sounds of the after-school crowd, the laughter, the shouting, the excited chatter, felt alien and mocking. Anne walked on the edge of the pavement, trying to stay in the shadows of the buildings, as if the darkness could somehow conceal her. The cramp in her belly returned with a vengeance, a constant physical reminder of her public humiliation. Each step was a painful effort, both physically and emotionally. A group of boys from her school rode past on their bicycles, catcalling and laughing. "Hey, look, it's the girl with the stain!" one of them yelled. The words hit her like a physical blow. Tears welled up in her eyes, hot and stinging, but she refused to let them fall. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. She just walked faster, her heart hammering against her ribs. She felt so exposed, so vulnerable, as if her white uniform was a giant sign pointing out her deepest, most private moment of transition to the entire world. The familiar streets of her neighborhood offered little comfort. Neighbors watering their gardens, shopkeepers sweeping their storefronts. Everyone seemed to be watching her. Her paranoia grew with every step. Could they see it? Did they know? She felt like a fugitive, running from the judging eyes of the world. All she wanted was the safety of her home, the one place where she could finally let go. The front door of her house seemed miles away, a distant sanctuary she wasn't sure she would ever reach. This walk was a painful journey, a public parade of her private shame. Finally, she reached her front door. Her hands fumbled with the keys, her fingers clumsy and slick with nervous sweat. The moment the door clicked shut behind her, a wave of relief washed over her, so powerful it made her knees weak. She was safe. She was home. Leaning against the door, she took a deep, shuddering breath, the silence of the house a balm to her frayed nerves. The bag she had been clutching so tightly fell from her grasp, landing on the floor with a soft thud. For a moment, she just stood there, letting the quiet envelop her. The relief was short-lived. As she started to climb the staircase to her room, a sharp, debilitating cramp seized her. It was worse than any she had felt before, a vicious twist in her gut that stole her breath and made stars dance before her eyes. Her vision blurred. She lost her footing on the polished wooden steps, her legs giving way beneath her. Anne tumbled downwards, landing in a heap at the bottom of the staircase. The fall wasn't far, but the shock and the relentless pain left her gasping on the floor, tears finally streaming down her cheeks. From the living room, she could hear the faint murmur of a news report on a tablet. Her father was home. "Dad!" she cried out, her voice weak and trembling. There was no response. "Dad, please!" she called again, a little louder this time, a sob catching in her throat. The sound of a stock market analysis droned on from the other room. Her father, a kind man but often lost in his own world of financial pressures and technological distractions, was completely absorbed in tracking his investments, oblivious to his daughter's distress just a few feet away. The feeling of being invisible, which had haunted her all day at school, now followed her into her own home. The crimson stain on her uniform felt more conspicuous than ever against the light-colored floor. The pain was a fire in her abdomen, and the emotional hurt was a crushing weight on her chest. Desperate and hurting, she gathered all her strength and let out one final piercing cry. Not for her father this time, but for the one person she knew would understand. "Mom! Mommy, help me!" The sound of her daughter's cry cut through the house like a siren. Anne's mother, who had been in the kitchen, rushed out, her face etched with concern. She saw Anne crumpled at the bottom of the stairs, her white uniform horribly stained, her face pale and streaked with tears. In an instant, her mother was by her side, her movements swift and sure. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't scold or panic. She simply knelt down, her warm hands gently stroking Anne's hair, her presence a silent promise of safety and comfort. "Oh, my sweet girl," she whispered, her voice full of a deep and knowing empathy. "It's okay. I'm here now. Everything is going to be okay." She carefully helped Anne to her feet, supporting her weight as they slowly made their way to the bathroom. Her mother's touch was gentle, her actions filled with an unspoken understanding that made Anne feel seen for the first time all day. In the privacy of the bathroom, her mother helped her clean up, explaining everything with a calm and reassuring tone that slowly began to chase away the fear and shame. Her mother handed her a sanitary pad, showing her how to use it. "This is your period, honey," she explained softly. "It's not an accident or something to be ashamed of. It's a natural, healthy part of growing up, of your body becoming ready for the future. It means you are becoming a woman." She explained the science of puberty and menstruation in simple terms, demystifying the experience that had caused Anne so much terror. She spoke of hygiene essentials not as a chore, but as a way of caring for and respecting one's own body during this important time. As her mother talked, the tight knot of shame in Anne's chest began to unravel. The experience was reframed not as a public humiliation, but as a private milestone. Her mother's words were a powerful antidote to the cruel laughter of her classmates. She explained that every woman goes through this, and that strength lies in understanding and supporting one another. Anne, now clean and wearing comfortable clothes, felt the heavy burden of the day begin to lift. She wasn't gross or weird, she was just growing up. And in her mother's loving embrace, she felt safe enough to believe it. Later that evening, Anne's mother spoke with her father. She explained what had happened, her voice calm but firm. The news report on his tablet was long forgotten. He looked at Anne, truly seeing her for the first time that day, his face filled with regret for his distraction. He came and sat beside her, pulling her into a gentle hug. "I'm so sorry, Annie," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I should have been there for you." In that moment, the family felt more united than ever, a small circle of support against the harshness of the world. Her father, a man of finance and technology, began to think differently. "You know," he said, "an idea forming. We use AI and complex financial models to solve all sorts of problems. Why not this one?" He started talking about how technology could help. Imagine an app that could predict a girl's cycle, sending gentle, private reminders. Imagine using financial technology to create subscription services for affordable, high-quality sanitary pads, delivered discreetly to homes, so no girl ever had to worry about cost or access, especially in poorer communities. The conversation shifted from a problem to a solution. They talked about how AI-driven platforms could provide accurate health information, busting myths, and ending the shame that Anne had felt. These tools could connect girls to a supportive community of peers and health experts, creating a safe space to ask questions without fear of judgment. The idea was not just about business. It was about empowerment. It was about using the most advanced tools of the 21st century to solve an age-old challenge, ensuring that every girl could navigate puberty with dignity and confidence. As she listened to her parents, Anne felt a new sense of hope bloom within her. The pain of the day was still there, but it was no longer the only thing she felt. She felt understood, supported, and loved. She imagined a future where no girl would have to endure the long, lonely walk of shame she had. The day had started with pain and embarrassment, but it was ending with family unity and a vision for positive change. Anne smiled, a genuine, hopeful smile. She was not just a girl who had her first period, she was a girl who knew she was strong, and that with the right support, she could face anything.